Points.
Good day there to you one and all, and welcome back to another episode of the Broad Points Podcast. I am your host, the broad that points, the broad with the points. It's me, Tyler, the lady. Hi, how's it going? I had to spare you guys last week. If you think that I sound anything other than beautiful right now, last weekend, oh my goodness, you would have hated the podcast that would have been produced because, you guys, I was ill. There's not a lot of times. It feels like recently anyways, I mean, we could roll the tapes back and double check, where I've been sick, which is pretty crazy because growing up, I feel like, I was always sick. I feel like I was always sick or I was always injured. That's, my mom always said that I was very accident prone. So I was, often in the hospital for broken bones or sprains or what have you. In addition to that, my immune system just couldn't hack it. And, now that I have a niece, and I see some younger kids growing up, I recognize that children are just petri dishes. We really are, because we're so pure, we're so innocent, right? Our immune systems, they haven't experienced the plethora of viruses and bacteria that the world has to offer us. And so, we get sick, and possibly maybe working from home does me some benefits. I do go out pretty regularly. Matt and I go to concerts very regularly. We go to the theater, lots of things to where I'm encountering other people. I'm encountering, the bacterias and things like that. I'm giving my immune system a little bit of a challenge. The difference, I believe it is important to recognize the differences from when we become ill to when we're healthy, right? To maybe avoid becoming ill again in the future. Usually, I'm so hydrated and nourished, right? I've given my body food so that it's not attacking itself and like trying to break down its own systems to be able to function. I'm not, flooding it with caffeine, but we'll get into that. We'll get into all of that because you know what? I've been on the way to recovery all week. All week I've been on the way to recovery. And just in case you're curious, I'll just give you a brief overview of my symptoms. I had a little bit of a cold is honestly what I believe it was. My throat was a little bit tickly at first, which I always turn to honey for that. It's antimicrobial. It's got a lot of antioxidants. It helps with the actual healing, of your throat when you just take a spoonful, spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Also, the spoonful of sugar can be the medicine if it's honey. And supposedly Manuka honey actually has more of, the health benefits. It's purer than, just your regular squeeze bottle. But, you do you. When you're sick, you just have to do what you can, honestly. Whatever is possible for you, you just got to make the best of where you are. I remember being so sick one time dog sitting for a coworker, and I brought myself, this was ill. I just had the cold, like a little head congestion, little chest congestion, and now, we're making our way through it. I probably sound a little nasally is the word that you would use if you were going to describe my present state. But believe me, it was worse. I tried not to talk at work all week, but this time when I was sick at my coworker's house dog sitting, I had the flu. I was like so physically weak. Like my whole body ached, and it took everything in my being to leave his house and go to the store and buy myself some soup. Yeah, some cans of soup. I just wanted some cans of soup. And then I proceeded to drive back to his house where I wanted to open the soup, make the soup so that I could eat the soup, and he did not have a can opener. Oh, who doesn't have a can opener? Who? Why? Lots of cans, lots of canned goods out there in the world. It's a great way of preservation and having food on hand in case of, emergency, illness, when you can't go to the store. It's good to have stuff on hand that you can just turn to, right? It's good to have. He did not have one, and I was so crushed. My whole being, like, I was already so weakened by this illness, and then to come up with no can opener and all of the soups need a can opener, I about wanted to die right there. You could have put a fork in me. I was done. I was so over it. Alas, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter, really, truly. I'm not a quitter. And, I ended up looking up some videos on how to open a can with a spoon. It is possible, you guys. It is possible to open a can with just a spoon. It takes a long time and it is quite aggravating. But what you do is you put your spoon, the edge of the spoon that you would be eating with, because that's the thinnest part of the metal typically on a spoon, is you take that and you rub it along the side of the can on the top, and you just have to wiggle it back and forth, and that friction of the metal on metal eventually cuts through the aluminum, and then barely you get around the can, just inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter. It's like basically no progress because you can't rub that far and get that much traction. So it's just, I did it though. I did it, which means you could do it. So if you're listening to this and you're feeling ill and you need to open a can, maybe you're not even feeling ill and you're just up for the challenge, grab a spoon. You can do it. It's like building fire without having flint or a lighter. You can do it. You can do it. I believe that you can do it. With that, let's jump in to the fundamental phrase for the week. This week, the fundamental phrase is, "The brave may not live long, but the cautious don't live at all." Yes, yes. The brave may not live long, but the cautious don't live at all. What does this mean to you? What does this mean to me? Let me share. Yes, in life, when we do things that require bravery, right? When we encounter things that require bravery, there is risk. At some times, it may even be our life. It may. But if we do not take these risks, if we do not overcome these fears, these obstacles, then are we ever really living? Because I believe the answer is no. I believe that when we shelter ourselves from all of the risks, right? When we live a very safe and sheltered life, withdrawn even is coming, secluded, isolated, all these different words are coming to mind, we don't really get to experience the joys that life has to offer. And they are aplenty, let me tell you. The world is such a beautiful place. Even when you don't want to go out and spend any dollars, you can go outside. You can breathe in the air. You can look at the sky. Maybe you're in a city and you don't have grass, but you can always look at the sky. There's always something happening in the sky. Right? We can enjoy our body. There's just so much to be grateful for, but if we don't use our body, we don't know what it's capable of. I didn't know I was capable of climbing mountains until I started climbing mountains. When you're at the bottom of the mountain, you're looking up, you're like, no way, that's crazy. Until you start doing it. Like, I've done so many hikes. I remember one of the most brutal hikes, actually. I believe it was called Storm King. It was in Washington, in the Olympic Peninsula, and it was not a long hike. But hikes do not have to be long to be hard, because the elevation of this, I believe it was only about 2 miles, was this hike. 2 miles uphill, right? Up mountain, through the beautiful rainforest of the Olympic National Forest in Washington. And the elevation, this is where it gets serious. 2,000 feet of elevation gain over those 2 miles. That is just straight up switchbacks, steep switchbacks all the way up this mountain until you get to just the craziest. But I didn't just get there, right? I was struggling. I was struggling to do it. And there was a fear of me, within me that said I might not be able to do it. I might not be able to make it, because I have had these past stories in my head of, I was the fat kid, right? I was always too slow, right? But every day, every moment, any time these stories come up in our heads, it's an opportunity to rewrite them. It is our chance to choose a new ending, to select a new path to journey down in hopes of the ending that we so choose, right? So this time I'm going up this hill in Storm King. It was so crazy, you guys. Like, to this day, I can visualize being there and the struggle and having to tell myself in my head, just left foot, right foot. Left foot, right foot. Left foot, right foot. All the way up this mountain until eventually I was up probably 1.75, probably even 1.8 miles up. And then you get to these ropes and you have to pull yourself up these ropes then. And I'm afraid of heights. You guys, heights are not my thing. So anytime I do anything that requires going against that, right? I had to climb this boulder. I had to pull myself on these ropes. I'm scaling this mountain to get all the way to the top. And oh my gosh, the payoff. The payoff for all of these struggles, right? For all of these stories that I've had to rewrite. I'm an established author by now, right? And my prize is this beautiful view. You could see all of Lake Crescent. The whole crescent, you guys. You could see why it was called Lake Crescent. It was so beautiful. I was so overjoyed, proud. I was proud of myself. You could be proud of yourself. You can. You can be proud of yourself. It's honestly wonderful to recognize the things that you are doing. Who else is going to do it? You got to do it. With that being said, you also have to take care of yourself. You do. Yes, and you have to listen to yourself, because no one else can do it for you. And nobody else knows what's going on with your body. And so it's actually hilarious because I was having this crazy neck pain and I could not tell what was going on. I was like, oh no, did I have nerve damage? I was doing all this nerve gliding, which is moving muscles around in hopes of alleviating, the pain of the nerves. And it was not happening. And then I got sick. So I think that was my body's way of telling me that I was going to become sick. And so as a result, I chose to stay home and not do some things, which is both good for me, and it was a little bit sad because I did miss my last dance class for the series that I was in. And that was a little bit devastating because I was so excited. I was crushing that choreo. And then I got, physically ill, and then, ill. So, now I'm on the way to recovery, but during this time, I, didn't do certain things like crazy amounts of sugar or crazy amounts of caffeine. Instead of going to my typical coffee or black tea, which is just, it's convenience, honestly. One, I like coffee, but also convenience, right? Of just having a tea bag, right? Just, it's so nice, but also not beneficial for your health. Caffeine, as I have said before, is not actually providing you with energy. Energy is not provided by caffeine. What caffeine does is it aggravates, honestly, your adrenal glands, which then produce stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, to then break down your body's systems. Yes, stress chemicals they pulse throughout your body, and they break down your body's systems. We don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be attacking our systems, our muscles. No way. No way. We want to be able to use our power and, not totally, deplete our muscles, deplete our focus, deplete all the other things, right? So instead, I opted for matcha. Yes, matcha tea. If you don't like matcha, I get it. Add some honey. Why? Because honey is antimicrobial. It has antioxidants. It's good for your throat. And matcha also has a lot of antioxidants. It also has L-theanine in it. So yes, it has caffeine, but it has L-theanine in it, which makes the breakdown of that caffeine slower within your system, which means it actually boosts your heart and your brain function. So for me, this is a way of being gentle with myself, right? We have to be gentle with ourselves when we are not at 100%. And honestly, we should be gentle with ourselves when we are 100%, because then maybe we won't dip below 100%. What do I mean by this? Well, like when you're blowing your nose repeatedly and going through a lot of tissue boxes, maybe just don't rub your nose off. Oh, we went on our 10-year anniversary last weekend, and I was, like I said, worse than I am today. I sound worse than I feel. So, I was bad last weekend. And the only saving grace was truly the fact that, one, I didn't rub my nose off, and two, I booked a room at it's the Azure Palm Hot Springs Resort and Spa. And you can get day passes, but I booked a room that had its own private mineral tub. Yes, there were mineral tubs on the property. That is why people buy day passes, is to go and soak in the mineral tubs and heal themselves in the magical waters of DHS. And, I was not feeling it. I could not really leave the room. And so the fact that I booked a room that had its own private mineral spa really it worked out in my favor. It's like past Tyler was looking out for future Tyler. And I said, you know what, girl, treat yourself. And then I ended up being sick. It's like I knew somehow. And so, maybe it was self-sabotage. Maybe I did it on purpose. I was sick on purpose. No, I know exactly what happened. I was at the Ren Fair. I was at the Ren Fair, and it was such a blast, you guys. Making my costume was 100% the best decision that I've ever made because I received so many compliments from mermaids who gave me sand dollars and children who were also dressed as little fairies. Like, it was just the absolute best time. I honestly could have stayed there all day and all night. Some lessons that I learned are wings are not practical, really, if you want to like move around and go to the bathroom and look at stuff. You got to think about, how big the wings are. And it was just a lot. That was a lot. Also, having a staff is really cool. Like, so many people were living for my staff that I made from PVC pipe and floral tape and a bunch of, honestly, like trim. It was in a trim package and some floral wire it just random things, fake flowers and palm frond. It was just very cute, very cute. You have to hold on to that the entire time. And so walking with it is cool because it's like your staff, but then like once you want to drink, once you want to eat, once you want to sit down at jousting, you're taking up a lot of real estate, which is honestly, take up your space. I think it's really cool to take up the space, and I received a lot of compliments. I felt very good about it, but it was really hard to move throughout. So next year I'll probably do something that's a little bit more movable. Or there is one in Idlewild. Maybe I'll just adapt my costume to something else, or make it a little bit more, I don't know, wearer friendly. We'll see, but I'm happy to go again. I loved the Ren Fair. I love just that period of time. I kept saying I was living my Knight's Tale fantasy. If you've never seen A Knight's Tale, it's a Heath Ledger classic. Heath Ledger was one of my most favorite actors of all time. If you don't know, look him up because he was legendary. And ooh, what a babe. What a babe. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Anyways, let's not go off on that. Let's talk about the Ren Fair some more, which is there's lots of good food, there's lots of good drinks. You have to be willing to wait in lines, which I'm realizing that life now has a lot of lines, which goes back to the virtue of patience. If there is something that you really truly want, you must be willing to speak up for it and then wait for it. And not everything is worth the wait. Some things really, truly are, next time. And if there's not a next time, like, no sweat off of my back, which is also something you have to think about, like, if not now, when? If not now, when? Because it might not be around next time, but some things just are not meant for us. Sometimes we are supposed to save dollars. Do you have problems just throwing your dollars at things? Guess what? Sometimes we are meant to save dollars. Sometimes it's just meant to be an inspiration for the future, not an I must purchase it right now. Oh, but I didn't wait in like any lines at the Ren Fair. I mean, I got my turkey leg, which was pretty quick and easy. And then we went and saw jousting, and then we were like basically out of there. But it's so long to walk through that it takes forever. And there's so many shops to stop at in the best way possible. Forever in the best way possible. Like I said, I could have stayed there all day. There was a whole other jousting match. They set it up so there's 3 jousting matches throughout the day. And so it builds on this whole storyline and these beautiful character arcs. And you come in, we went in at the second one and everybody was like already invested in like what was going on. So you got to get there early, and 30 minutes before the joust, you better be at the joust so that you can get a good seat, because they were already filling up and we were there about 30 minutes before. So do with that what you will. I will love to go back. Next time, I will absolutely hydrate myself, because by not hydrating myself the entire time, by not making sure that I had water and food that entire time. Like I said, I ate one turkey leg the whole day. That was not a smart choice. And I probably had like 3 or 4 caffeinated beverages, which is not great management. I see it. I see why my immune system didn't like that. And then to just be out there with like everybody traveling from all over the place. People travel from all over the place to go to this Ren Fair. And so you're just like running your immune system on E, girl. Like, what were you thinking was going to happen? But, you know, I learned, right? Stay hydrated. That's why I'm so successful when I travel of not getting sick, is I stay hydrated. I stay nourished. Nourish yourself, you guys. Nourish yourself. And then when you are ill at things that you really want to do and you're with other people, just, you know, think about who would you want to be around? How can you make the best of the situation, right? How can you make the best of the situation? How can you make it the best time for everyone as possible while also caring for your needs? I went to bed early, very early, every night last weekend, anniversary weekend. I spent a great amount of time celebrating our love, and it was a beautiful weekend. I also went to bed very early because I couldn't breathe. So, but I tried not to make it miserable for Matt because that would just be like annoying. Like, I still wanted it to feel like we were celebrating our anniversary. 10 years is a long time. Right? It's a long time. 6 years consecutively since we've been, you know, moving down here into the desert. So, like, go us. Go us. We deserve to be celebrated. All of my accomplishments deserve to be celebrated. You know, I've also been playing piano, trying to learn piano. And honestly, I'm getting really good at playing Phantom of the Opera. With both hands, you guys, with both hands. This big time stuff over here. But, you know, it's just the more I learn, the more I want to learn and the more I want to practice. And this is really something new for me. There's a lot of times when I'll just fizzle out and be like, yeah, I'm over this instrument. But having my keyboard out and accessible for me has been a really fun journey. And we saw Phantom of the Opera when we were in London, and it's one of Matt's favorites, and so I feel like there's just like this extra special connection when I get to play it on the keyboard, is that, you know, like he loves it and I love it and we've seen it live and there's just so much history with it. It's just so beautiful. Instruments are so beautiful. I 10 out of 10 recommend learning an instrument. And piano's fun because working with the right and left hand activates the left and right side of the brain, just like dancing. So constantly finding ways to, you know, fully activate my brain and, you know, challenge myself so that I can continue to grow. In addition to that, I've mentioned it before, let's get an update on it, my sourdough starter. Yes, I started a sourdough starter this year, and it's still starting. I'm not quite at the doubling portion of it. So what you do is you add flour and water to a jar and you let it basically ferment on your counter covered. And you want it to be between, they say like 70 and 85 degrees or something like that. Really, you want it like 75 up because like mine was at 70 and it was not doing a darn thing. It was just completely just lifeless. And now I've been storing it in my microwave. Yes, in my microwave, which is smarter than your oven because people, you don't need to preheat your microwave, right? People preheat the oven and they don't check. So storing it in the microwave is actually a genius move because it is one of the warmest places in my home consistently. I know, I live in the desert and I have problems with my house being, you know, too cold for my sourdough starter because we have air conditioning, people. Air conditioning. It keeps this place just perfect. You can live anywhere with, you know, central air, you know, heat or air conditioning. Those two things make it, you can live anywhere. So having it in my microwave. Now we're almost to the point of doubling in size. You want your starter to double in size. That lets you know that it's strong enough to cook with. And so I'm almost there. It's getting there. It's very exciting. I cleaned out my first jar that I had started with and put it into a different jar. And when I cleaned that jar, which you do by adding boiling water to the jar and letting some of that sourdough scum come off of the sides, then once it cools, I added that to my plants as feed for them. And oh my gosh, I have had a plumeria that in between being dormant, which means like having no leaves and no flowers at all, will have just some leaves. It has not flowered since I received it, probably, I'm going to say like 3 years ago. It has so many flowers now that are coming in. The little buds and the little leaves are insane. I'm so excited. You know, some people have children. I have sourdough starter and my plants, you guys. And I am so thrilled about it. The life that they are living now. And oh, I cannot wait for the flowers to bloom. I'm watching them come in. There are some big petals coming through right now. I cannot wait to share them. But I'll share some of these things. I'll share some of these little updates so that way you can see them for yourself, so that you could believe it. And you know, if you have any questions about these things, like maybe you want a sourdough starter for yourself, like maybe you want to talk to me about the hot spring some more, maybe you want to talk about my Ren Fair costume, you can absolutely follow me on social media only, not in real life, that's stalking, or DM me, yes, at Broadpoints, or at Tyler the Lady. And if those things aren't for you, maybe you want to send me an email. Yes, an email directly to me. You can. It is broadpointspodcast@gmail.com. I will read them. I will write back. I'm so excited. And don't forget to like, rate, review, and subscribe to this here podcast so that you know when it is coming out and available for you to stream. Typically on Monday. We try to do every week, but sometimes we get sick. Sometimes life happens. And with that, I say, do what you can. Right? Apply yourself, do your best, make the best of whatever you can, be gentle with yourself, and just give what you can while allowing yourself to still have some in your cup for you. We don't want to deplete our resources. We want to work with our body, right? We want to be all connected. So with that, let's wrap up this week's episode with that fundamental phrase just one more time. It is, the brave may not live long, but the cautious don't live at all.